experiences are meant to be memorable and life-fulfilling. Nowhere is this more evident than your college experience, which helps to mold you into the person you are and the legacy you want to leave. And for college students across Canada, it's important to note that they are fully engaged in their post-secondary or college experience to ensure that they maximize their potential and memories during this portion of their lives, which is critical for their personal and professional development. According to a national survey commissioned in 2022 by Studiosity, which is a respected and national online platform for studying post-secondary institutions, they found when it came to student wellness, 61% of students feel strongly engaged with their college or university experience, and over 80% of students say that their student experience goes a long way to determining which post-secondary institution they will ultimately attend. Meanwhile, the survey also says that students who attend college in Canada are 64% more optimistic that they will receive gainful employment at the conclusion of their college experience. This is all good news and food for thought for my friend Ryan Peebles, who serves as the executive director of the Student Representative Council at Clair College. As a part of Peebles' responsibilities, he is in charge of overseeing the operations of the Student Council and also to ensure that student voices are heard throughout all levels of the college, including upper management. Peebles and his staff are committed to maximizing the height of the student experience at Clair College and being an ally to students wherever they can. And Peebles joined me this week to talk about how the student experience has changed in terms of ensuring that Canadian college students can get the most out of their post-secondary experience, how the college education experience has adapted to better resemble the practical needs and demands of today's workforce, and setting up students for success both inside and outside of the walls of the college. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. My friend, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn how you're enhancing student life at Clair College, my friend. Always great to see you, my friend, and thank you so very much for being here.
You're most welcome. It's always a pleasure to be here, Kevin, and happy to help.
Absolutely. So, Ryan, I know one of your main responsibilities at the college is enhancing student life at the college, my friend. So I'm interested to start our conversation by asking you to react to a recent study by Statistics Canada, which found that 50% of today's college students, my friend, value their college experience when making a decision on where to go to school, my friend. And they cite things like social interaction and their overall college experience as to why that's important. So why do you think that number is so high, and what comes to mind when you hear that statistic, my friend?
First, when I see the stat at 50%, I go back and forth. If it's shocking that it's high, but it's also shocking that it's low. You would hope that more students would want to pay a tribute to more of their experience on campus, and that's kind of what our role is at the student union, is to ensure that when students are on campus, they've got the best of both worlds. They can come here and strive academically, but we also provide them with the student life or student experience so that when they leave here, they have those memorable times. So I see 50%. I say that's high to see that some degree that some students do admire or at least pay tribute to their student experience. Because when you look at the student engagement on our side, I don't think we see 50% of student engagement through our events or our student union. I guess it maybe depends on the event or maybe the service we provide. If you look at our bus pass service that we provide students, that's probably a well utilized 80 to 90% utilization rate for those students who do pick up the bus pass. So that's good for us. When it comes to the student experience side, it varies, I guess, on what kind of event or experience they're looking for. So we try to ensure that we are here for all students. So we try to listen to our students' voices to see what kind of let's say events on campus, whether it be career service workshops, could be tips and tricks to budgeting. It could be what do I do after graduation? It could be housing. It could be therapy dogs because they're stressed. It could be just stress less, free food, food services, for example, or a food bank. That all encompasses your campus life. And it also goes to academics, to athletics. So when you think of athletics, you think of your typical standard football, basketball, hockey, baseball, your traditional athletics. But then you look at the St. Clair athletics field, and we have both sides of academic interests for athletics as well as esports athletics. So we go to our esports athletics, which is your computer gaming, any sort of digital gaming. So we kind of see that full circle of events where we can provide that really good experience for our students when on campus. So to answer your question, it's shocking to see that it's so high, but also shocking that it could be so low, because you'd think that everyone would value their experience while on campus.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I know that you also oversee the student council, my friend, and you're big into making sure that students' voices are heard throughout all of the campuses that St. Clair College offers, my friend. And I know that you've been at this a while, my friend, and I'm curious to ask you, based on your experience, my friend, how do you think student advocacy has changed over the years, my friends?
It ebbs and flows with I would say, the topics of discussion. There's always been your standard topic of tuition, books, cost of experience, essentially here at St. Clair, or even just the college system in general. That I think has always been at the forefront of students. But when it comes to how advocacy evolves, I think we're seeing a large push on mental health in the last half decade or the last few years. Housing has been a struggle. Housing's always kind of been a unique value, but I would say in the last couple of years, it's been at the forefront of advocacy. And that's not just for students, that's housing in general across the board for all Canadians. But it also ebbs and flows with your student dynamics or your student demographics. So depending on what student catchment's coming through our school system that year or that decade, really helps, I think, drive as to what their values are. So if I were to go back 20 years ago when I was in school, the value of advocacy was, I think, stronger. We were fighting to keep tuition rates lower, whereas now the government froze domestic tuition, which is fantastic, but there's also like OSAP loans. So while the OSAP loans at the provincial level still have interest, the federal level kibosh their interest loans. So I think for us, advocacies always will be there, but it's what type of advocacy we're advocating for. So we really pay tribute to our students' voices. We have students that are elected to the student seats of your directorship or your student council, vice president, and presidency. We rely on those students' voices at every single one of our committees. So if you look at a college committee, there's always going to be a student voice on that committee to ensure that the decisions made at the college level has the student's voice. Whether we're advocating here locally at our college level or locating provincially with the College Student Alliance or another provincial advocacy group, we're always kind of there, and it really pushes us to what our student leadership guides us for that year. So we sit down with our student council every May when they're elected, and we work with those student leaders to determine what their strategic direction is for the year, both locally, but also provincially, but also nationally. So what kind of things can we help with them? Is that meeting with MPs locally, local MPs provincially, but also meeting with the federal MPs, really just ensuring that the students' voices are listened to. But advocacy kind of always stays on the forefront of the same issues of housing, mental health, tuition, costs, and a lot of it lately has been affordable housing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ryan, when we look at university students that are wanting to further their education from a college perspective after they've completed their university degree, the Ontario colleges has reported that over 40% of university graduates decide to, further their education through a college experience, my friend. And I'm curious because I know that there are a lot of second career students who attend St. Clair College to further their education. So I'm wondering your thoughts on that number and whether you think that trend will continue, my friend.
I think that trend will always continue back and forth. We've been seeing this for decades. Students have always either started at St. Clair or even started in the college and gone to university, or vice versa. Some start at the university and then come to St. Clair. What we hear is that students either choose to go one way or the other because they either want to complete their diploma here at St. Clair with a degree at the university to further allocate their ability to get a job. Some of them want to continue into a master's program or a PhD, so they'll start here at St. Clair, get that hands-on, on-the-ground experience with, say, a smaller class size where they can really get that experiential learning. And then they go off to the university side where they earn their bachelor's or their master's and they get that theoretical side. I think that'll always see an ebbs and flows. We have some good pathway agreements between universities to extend your diplomas here from St. Clair. We're also seeing a large increase in St. Clair offering, or even just colleges offering degrees. The Ministry of University and Colleges has now been authorized to allow colleges to offer four-year degrees. Some do, some don't. St. Clair has launched their business IT program into a degree, but they also have their legal, community studies, and justice degree, amongst a few others. But there's also concurrent programs. So you can see like your Bachelor of Science Nursing, there's a 2-year here at St. Clair, then they go to the university for their final 2 years. You also have your concurrent Bachelor of Education program where they can do a diploma concurrently with a degree. So I think that number will kind of always be around the 40%, maybe even increase or decrease depending over the years. But I think that'll always be there. We'll see students that always want to expand their learning, whether they leave university and they come to St. Clair because they know that St. Clair's got that hands-on experiential learning that'll get them that interview, or maybe it's that extra couple of years of a diploma that maybe will brand them with higher skill sets. It's hard to say, but again, that's always going to be around, students enhancing their careers, even in the future. No one's too old to be a student or too young to be a student. We have students here, a variety of ages. A lot do come back to school because they want to start something new or refresh their skill set, for example. And you're never too old to learn.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I'm curious just to follow up and ask you if you think St. Clair's in a unique position in that way, considering the town that we live in with a lot of people that work in factory work, for example, who maybe their employer will pay for them to get increased training in that regard. Do you think St. Clair has a unique position in that way over other Ontario colleges?
I think St. Clair, I would love to say St. Clair is unique in that way, but I would believe that most post-secondary or most colleges and within the local community offer some retraining to some degree. I do know St. Clair does have a great strong agreement locally with our community partners, whether it be say Stellantis or Ford or any sort of the feeder plants or so sort of the corporations. We work closely with them, whether it's in our research and development areas to really guide how we can help structure research for them, but also working with our program advisory committees. So we work with those community groups to help better our diplomas and degrees, but then also with retraining. So our continuing education program will do a lot of Con Ed classes at night, and they'll send in groups of students, not to mention our apprenticeship program. So we work with, again, a lot of local apprentices that come into school for retraining or just training in general before going back out to their employer. So they'll do a few weeks of classes here, they'll go back to work for a couple months, come back to St. Clair for some retraining. But we do have a great continuing education department that works hand in hand with the community on how they can better serve their organizations in whatever training they need.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ryan, I know that the college offers, as a part of the SRC, more than 30 academically based clubs, as you were mentioning in the beginning about expanding the social interaction sort of realm of the college. And I'm curious, when you look at the clubs that St. Clair offers, what are your thoughts on the diversity of opportunity for students who want to get involved in extracurricular activities at the college? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so our programs are academically based, so we typically are tied to a program. Now we do have some communities that we venture off into that we've provided space for, and we provide supports to some degree. We encourage, again, predominantly academically based program clubs, again, because we want to foster that engagement within your academic program for growth and development within each other, but also to bring in individuals from diverse areas. So just because you're in, say, horticulture doesn't mean you can't join the HR club and vice versa. I know when I was a student at St. Clair, I joined the architecture club because they were traveling to the Habitat for Humanity out to New Orleans for 2 weeks to rebuild after Katrina. So I joined the architecture club that year because that was something I was passionate about, was volunteering for Habitat, and they had a great organization there. So we encourage all students from all walks of life for any program to join any club on campus. So we do our best to try to include club diverse days or club engagement days on campus. And then also to ensure that students are aware of the club events on campus. We just are going to launch a new program in the coming months. It's an online digital platform for all of our clubs, a way to better serve our students through advertising of their events as well as to join their clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, I'm also curious to ask you about any strategic advantages you think St. Clair has being on the cusp of an international border, my friend, with the United States just a stone's throw away from St. Clair's main campus, my friend. I'm wondering what sort of competitive advantages you think that offers to the college when it comes to recruitment or student retention or that sort of a thing. What are your thoughts there?
For us on our side, I know for us, it allows us the advantage of the ability to compete with some major institutions on that side, whether it be for sporting engagement. For example, I know our esports teams, we strive on our participation with the U.S. Institutions because they've got strong backings of stronger teams and more teams to play against. Esports isn't as big right now in the Canadian market where it is in the U.S. market. When it comes to our esports side, but when it comes to other challenges, I say unique, not say challenges, but more benefits, utilizing student life, we can generate better maybe events. Cedar Point, for example, we sent busloads over there to as a group of students over there to say the Tigers games. We have access to some great talent that isn't so far away. Again, it is over the border, so there are some ups and downs with regards to, say, visa or permits, but to get over the border is quick and easy, and they've got a plethora of things that are for experiences are there, but also institutions. So you can also partner with institutions in the US. So you could live in Canada, where Canada to some degree, or in Windsor, is lower cost of living. Then you can travel over the border to the States to finish your degree or diploma, or even your master's program at one of the many institutions in the States. We have some good pathway agreements with some of the US institutions that allow that. But it also comes back to us as getting some students from the US to come to Canada, because maybe the US dollar is strong and they can get quality education here in Canada with a fraction of the cost. The other thing is, to when you're thinking about traveling to the US as a student or coming in from the US as a student, there's also international fees. So you got to consider that you're not a domestic student anymore. You're now applying as an international student. So you're paying a little higher rates, whether you're going to the US or they're coming here for school. So there's always an advantage or disadvantage, I guess, depending on the way you look at it. An advantage to some degree was travel. If you're a student, you want to travel at March break, it's fantastic. You jump over the border to Detroit and jump on a plane. It's easy and quick. But when it comes to advantages to other institutions in Canada regarding border city, I think it's just ease of access to services and fun to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I know, my friend, that you also have training as a personal support worker, and you've been doing that a while. So I'm curious to also ask you, how do you think both St. Clair and colleges across the province can continue to, elevate and support students with disabilities to maximize their educational experience? What are your thoughts there?
I think it's just being mindful and open to adapting and changing the way we train our students and maybe the way they are trained. Having an open mind and willing to change and adapt, because not everyone is the same. Every disability is different. Every disability has a way of dealing with those disabilities, whether it's one disability to another. Everyone's different, and knowing that you can't approach the situation with the same way every time. You have to have an open mind and have the ability to change your ways or think on the fly if you need to, is personally what I would say. Just ensuring that they're staying up to date with their medical terminology, and as well as the needs of the community. We do have program advisory committees here at St. Clair, where we utilize a lot of the industry field experts to sit on those community committees to ensure that our programs are still staying up to date with what the needs of our community is looking for. And that goes back to when you asked about their retraining, utilizing those tools to retrain our students so that when they are hitting the job market, they're ready to work. They're not having to learn a whole new skill set when they get to their employer. But I would say that, ensuring that we continue to stay connected with our community and the needs, but also working with individuals with disabilities to understand what things that we might be missing in our training facilities. So having a walkthrough with a student with a disability to maybe walk through some of those labs to show, well, this is reality versus expectation. That would be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Ryan, based on working with you when I was in school, buddy, that we worked extensively to try and find me, a community internship to further my education and experience at the college. And I know that the college has made an increased commitment to ensuring that they offer a variety of internship opportunities for students who attend the college. And, for students with disabilities, there are advantages to working with community partners and business and who are, service providers who work in the field of, inclusive employment. So I'm curious to ask you about how do you think colleges in St. Clair in particular can continue to work with all of those community stakeholders to make sure that all students, but particularly students with disabilities can have access to internships. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Again, it goes back to that open mind and having everybody is an individual. We all have a way of life about us that I guess is we're all unique in our own ways. But having someone in your corner to fight to ensure that individuals are treated respectfully across the board, regardless of whether a disability or not. I think we know that individuals with disabilities can outperform individuals without disabilities. I think it's getting those employers to give those students a chance. And St. Clair has been in that corner every step of the way to ensure that we are promoting students as individuals and not focusing on their disabilities. But working with individuals, Kevin, like yourself, that when you came to St. Clair, is helping us overstep those boundaries and pushing those barriers down. And it's individuals like yourself that take a step out that show that employers can hire some great talent with or without a disability. Individuals with disabilities are no different than individuals without disabilities. And I think St. Clair is a unique predicament because we're part of Ontario, whereas Ontario's got far advanced accessibility needs and requirements, but also pathways and legislation that help individuals with disabilities succeed. I don't think that other provinces are at where they could be. So I think we're in a neat area where we're above the rest, but we still have a far way to go. And I think that's the unfortunate part is that we continue to put those barriers down or break those barriers down because unfortunately individuals don't have an open mind to hire individuals with disabilities because I think they always see the red flags. I'm not saying there are red flags, but I think they assume there's red flags, and I think that's the unfortunate.
Yeah, so in your opinion, my friend, what do you think it'll take to establish those relationships of inclusivity within the community? What are your thoughts there?
I think it takes us the right person to continue that fight to ensure that students are seen as individuals. I think at this point, there's some adaptations to, say, resume writing that could be seen because a lot of people, unfortunately, they hire based on looks. Once they see an interview person, they don't hire based on the skill set on a resume. And I think that's the unfortunate part. But I think it's just having that right person to continue to fight and to continue to make sure that students with disabilities or graduates with disabilities have an equal fighting chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I move on, I'm curious to ask you if you had one message to service providers in terms of working alongside the college community to open up those opportunities of advancement for folks or students with disabilities. I'm wondering, what would your message be in one?
I would employ those service advisors to bring an individual on to their portfolio who has a disability, whether it's as little or as big, but employ those service providers to bring those disability individuals on and let them work, say, a month, 6 months, challenge the provider to see that the individual can succeed in that role. Everyone has the ability to succeed in their own availability. But provided if those service providers would just take that leap of faith or that step, I'm sure they'd be surprised at the outcomes that they could see by hiring an individual with a disability.
Yeah, and more broadly, Ryan, I'm curious, what do you think it means for a college student to develop their personal and professional identity while they're in college? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
One of my faculty told me when I was in school many years ago is that you're going to change your careers a few times in your life. And I think that goes the same way to the kind of your career, your personality, and your creating of yourself when you leave school, because you're a different person when you're a student compared to when you graduate, compared to when you're into your field. Like, I think you're going to go through a challenge of life, and you're going to advance, and you're going to see yourself grow, where I hope to see yourself grow. You're always going to want to learn, so staying on top of learning, whether it's just refreshing your skill set, but I think it's important to stay on top of the learning aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Ryan, going back to College of Ontario, they recently released a study that found that 85% of recent college graduates find a job within the first 6 months of graduating, my friend. So I'm curious, what do you think of that number, and what do you think the practical sort of accessibility of colleges is making sort of a resurgence in the minds of people when they're looking for a post-secondary education? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
First, on the number of 85% of graduates finding employment, that's amazing. I know historically the Ministry of Ontario here for Training and Colleges has focused heavily on graduation rate, but also employment rate. So after graduation, they're trying to ensure that you are graduating, but also attaining employment within your field, because at that level, you're coming to St. Clair, you're coming to a college to be trained on a specific program, for example, to get a job in that field. And if we're not able to employ you in that field, then what do we continue to train people for? If there's only 5 jobs in, say, tourism, but we're training 50 a year, that's 45 additional people that are without jobs that are being trained in something that they don't need. And we've seen that recently with the international number crunch, where they started to retract a lot of their international numbers based on the fact that there's no jobs out there for those specific programs. So it's nice to see that the 85% is high of graduates finding employment within 6 months. The thoughts on progress that colleges have made, they had to make those changes. They had to adapt to ensure they're graduating individuals that are employable. Because if you're going to continue to graduate individuals that are unemployable, then it goes down to the accreditation of your institution. It's not a credible institution. They're just at one point, I think the term was used was diploma mills. Are you just shipping out diplomas and printing diplomas to gain monetary value? Institutions, specifically colleges, have to focus on their reputation. And if they can continue to show that they're graduating students and they're getting employed, that's hopefully comes back to the fact that they have practical relevance experience here on campus and they're getting that gainable knowledge that's employing. So it really has to, I think, focus on the institution specific. So of that 85%, I would be curious to see what institutions are lacking in employability, but also who's at the forefront of what graduates are being employed the most. St. Clair's got a large reputation of being one of the largest health service providers for nurses and health science graduates in Ontario as one of their top graduates. But looking back at that numbers, how many of them have attained successful employment? I would really like to see that the 85% of what school is lacking, and that's what I would pay tribute to if I was a student. If I was looking at institutions now, okay, well, if I went to this school and I graduated with this diploma, what is my rate of getting a job? So I'd focus on the institutions individually at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, I know that you've been employed with the college for a long time and that you've also attended the college as a student, my friend. So I'm curious for you, what's the best part about being part of the St. Clair College community specifically? And why do you love your job, my friend?
It's hard to say about the best part of being part of the St. Clair College community. From being a student all the way now to being employed here for the last couple decades. To tell you the truth, I think it was just that I felt at home here. I felt comfort. There's always something challenging me to do. In my current job here at the Student Council, I love working here because I come in every day to something different and new, and I work with different student leaders every year. So my student groups change every year. So every May, I get a whole group of students that I work closely with and help direct and guide what the student leadership is looking to do. So for me, it keeps me fresh, young, and it keeps me going. It keeps my mind going on how I can learn and adapt to further generate additional, say, revenue for our students to keep our student fees down. But also, what events can we have that are new and exciting for students? But also, what student rights are need to be adhered to? There's always something going on that's different. It's never the same day. So I like that. It's fresh and exciting for myself. But I also like that at St. Clair, our enrollment has grown. So when I started working here, we had 4,000 students. Now we're over 15,000. To see our enrollment grow but also see the institution grow has been great. And we're also still a small little family. You could pick up the phone and call the college president, and he would make the time to see you. That's what I like about that. Our college administration has been always been an open door policy with students. They listen to their students. They listen to their community on what their needs are, and if they can fix it, they will. I don't think I see that from similar colleagues across the province with their administration or even across Canada. We belong to several organizations where we talk to other institutions, and I don't think we see that same camaraderie as we do here with the institution. St. Clair's Student Council and their St. Clair College administration have a very good working relationship, and we have had that for several years. Our previous president, Dr. Patty France, ensured that our student voice was heard at every single meeting, whether it would be academic council or a student grade appeal, all the way down to a fun community parade event. We ensure that our Saints Nation is always as one full group picture, and we're not here individually. We're always here for a greater community.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we wind down our time together this afternoon, my friend, I'm curious to ask you, how do you think St. Clair continues to, challenge itself to grow and expand the college experience? What do you think it means to ultimately maximize a student experience in today's college landscape? What are your thoughts there?
Thoughts on how the college can continue to grow and expand is just being mindful of what the needs of our environment are, but also looking to the future, looking to what the needs of the future are. So a few years ago, they really focused on the future of EV, so your electric battery plants, which is fantastic, and you want the ability to do that. But in order for us to learn to grow the EV, we had to research it. And you can only research so little because it was so new. So St. Clair has really adapted to launching their research and development period, but they're also working hand in hand with community partners and to see what needs are there. When the need for community nurses and PSWs happened during COVID, St. Clair hit the ground running on how they can ensure that students are being trained in a capacity where they were able to graduate, but still learning as they graduated. But St. Clair's always been really good at ensuring that they listen to their community advisors and they look to the future. They do community engagement for their stakeholders on how their strategic directions are going to go, and they do that every 5 years. So they're currently doing a strategic direction revamp, and they've researched both college students, faculty, retirees, student leaders, community engagement, and they've always ensured they've asked everyone around the table for input before they make their directions.
Yeah, and before I ask you my last question, I have one more for you. What do you think it means to maximize student engagement on an individual level in terms of meeting students where they are and sort of maximizing their student experience? My friend, what are your thoughts there?
It's listening to what our students want and need. Not everyone needs and wants the same thing. While we have, say, 15,000 students across our campuses, every student experience is different and every campus experience is different. So the need of a downtown student might be different than the need of a Chatham student or the need of a Toronto student or the need of a South Campus Windsor student. So utilizing and listening to our students groups. So we have a lot of class reps that we utilize to listen to hear them out. And it means what it means to maximize your experiences. Are you working on campus? Are you attending campus life events? Are you getting involved, whether it be a club, whether it be volunteering on campus? It could be attending classes, hanging out at night, wandering through some of the student life aspects of your concerts or your frosh events or your esports arena to play some video games on your breaks, or just partaking in some of the on-campus fun. Maximizing is just being present, being here physically, and being mindful of your surroundings. Don't turn a blind eye to some of the posters on the wall or some of the TV screens with advertisements. Try to be involve yourself as much as you can, whether it's working or volunteering. I did that when I was a student. I worked here at the same time as involved myself in student life. And I think that's what really helped me get to the job I'm at, because I was around and I knew the institution because I was participating in so many student events.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ryan, my final question for you this afternoon has to do with your own personal and professional legacy. When you leave the college, my friend, and your career is over in higher education, what sort of a legacy do you want to leave behind, my friend?
I hope the legacy that I leave behind is just something that be true to yourself, but also be willing to stand up for someone's rights that you see that aren't being listened to. Don't be afraid to speak up. I've not been afraid to speak up. I've spoke up for several individuals that haven't had the ability to. I work in a student union, so for me, the ability to have a student to continue to rise those student voices is our forefront. So as a legacy, I think it's just knowing that I made a difference in someone's life. I don't need to see that difference, but knowing down the road that some individual could say, I had a great experience at St. Clair because A, B, and C, and just knowing that I was the back end that helped those students succeed. I don't need the fancy titles or the fancy rewards or acknowledgments, because I know at the end of the day, my students are graduating and leaving here happy and successful. We had a student president come back last year who graduated a few years ago, and she paid tribute to something that we did as our administration for her is something that she learned while in school, but it didn't come into fruition until 5 years after graduation, where she said, you know what, if it wasn't for you and being my leader at that time, I would never have gotten to where I'm at today. So just honestly, a personal and professional legacy is just knowing that students here are successful and have the ability to make a difference because we set them up with that success.
Absolutely, my friend. And I know the SRC office has an open door policy, my friend. So tell me if students want to get involved with the SRC or contact the office directly. How best can they do that, my friend?
Doors open always 8:30 to 4:30 here at the main campus and downtown. We've got 2 offices, and then we've got our Chatham campus office as well. Doors are always open. They can reach out to us on our social media channels under St. Clair SRC. They can come visit any one of our events. Pop by campus. We're always around. There's always a student board of director member available, and whether it's be at events or could it be in our office hanging out with students or in the hallways, we're always a happy, friendly face, and we're always here to talk.
Well, Ryan, it's always great to see you, my friend, and I want to thank you for your commitment to enhancing student engagement and diversity, my friend. It's always wonderful to strengthen our personal and professional friendship, my friend, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
I wouldn't have changed any other way. I appreciate the time today, Kevin, and thanks for asking me to be on.